Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Law Unscripted, where we discuss all the things about the law and the legal system you never knew,
never understood,
and no one ever told you. We are talking today about what you should be doing the month before you take the bar exam. We're talking preparation. What do you need to look at? What do you need to do? What do you need to worry about? And what do you need to prepare for? That's our discussion today. We're going to do a series of it. So the next one we're going to do is what you should do the week of the bar exam. And then what you should do, goodness, at least after the bar exam. Now that it's done, what do you do? It's a question we get a lot. And having taken a couple of bars and Chelsea having taken one even just last year, I think we're well suited to address some of these concerns and hopefully help you get through your bar examination, whether it's the July one or the February one.
Yeah, they just don't have enough to worry about as is. So I thought, we would give them something to worry about,
Yeah, no, it's good. And here I am rushing. I'm so worried about it. And I haven't taken the bar in years that I'm rushing ahead. But you're right. Let's give them something to worry about.
Right, because they just don't have anything this summer to be that scared about,
No, nothing at all. It's just a little test.
It's just a test, guys. It's just a test.
It is really just a test. So let's help you. Let's help everybody to refocus, to take control of what they can take control of so that they won't be as stressed. Everybody can reduce some stress by looking at these things now versus getting caught with them later or something unexpected happening. So I am Virginia Tarani. I'm the CEO of the Law Unscripted, as well as a practicing attorney at Tarani Law LLC, because you never need a lawyer till you do. And we practice in Virginia, Maryland, and DC. I have taken both Virginia and Maryland bar, and I've waived into DC. We're working on Tennessee admission at this point, and Chelsea just passed last year the Maryland bar.
Yes, and that is enough for me for now. I love that you are just a bar exam queen. If I never had to take a bar exam again, I would die happy, but we'll see.
But you're so prepared for it. And Chelsea she graduated from American University last year and took the Maryland bar, did pass it, partly by using our classes. So under the lawunscripted.com, the two of us offer classes where you can walk through with a real practicing attorney and a law student who is going through the bar at the same time as you. We've got 3 different types of programs as well as outlines for the 8 core subjects. So if you want to hear our takes and review of the subjects, go to the lawunscripted.com. You can purchase individually, where if you have just a subject or two that's tough for you, or the entire thing you want to supplement just in case, go grab those classes, and then you can always catch our podcast, this one and the Legal Weekly Wine, on that website too. But Chelsea is my colleague both at Tarani Law as well as the Law Unscripted. You will see our faces throughout all of it.
Yes, you can watch. We filmed it in real time. It was really me studying for the bar. And I can absolutely say I would not have passed the bar if I didn't have access to you. So I'm glad that other people are getting that opportunity too. Because you were a great resource when I was doing that. Again, I feel like I've blacked it all out because it was so stressful.
It's fairly traumatic, I think, for most law students who are taking the bar, is it feels like so much is riding on it. And in reality, a lot is, right? Like taking your medical boards is, if I don't pass, I can't be an attorney. Now, the reality is most people who take it pass at least after the second attempt. Many do for the first. It's a ton who do as a first. But even if you don't make it the first time, a lot of people make it up that second time. I have one of my attorney friends who was a huge mentor to me. I was shocked when he told me years later, he's 20 years older than me, and he told me, hey, I failed the bar the first time. And I was floored. I was like, you did? This person failed the bar? Well, if he can fail, anybody can fail. And he's one of the best attorneys I've ever known. So it is not a strike against anybody if they fail, but let's set them up a little bit more for success. And we're going to talk about 3 specific things, categories, where we're going to talk about electronics. Let's figure this out before we get to the bar. We're going to talk about logistics. What do you need to be setting up before you go so that it works when you get there? And then packing. Why are we talking about packing now? Well, we're going to explain it to you. Stay tuned, because even though it is a month ahead of time, you want to think about packing now so that you're not at a desperate last minute attempt, even the week of or the week before the bar exam.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chelsea, let's talk about electronics. When you were taking the bar last year, and that was 2023.
Yes.
Were you allowed to use your phone or computer when you were in the bar?
Yes. So I was taking the bar on my computer. And before, and I'm sure every state does it a little bit differently, but you have to register your computer and like download the software by a certain deadline, which I think was a little bit before this. However, I was very stressed because I was someone who had bought a new computer the summer before law school and really put that computer through it. I'm not particularly gentle on my things and like downloaded everything. And so the computer was running a little slow at this point in the summer. And I was very stressed about that. So what I started by doing was taking everything off of that computer that was not absolutely necessary so that it would be running as fast as possible. Because that was my biggest fear, unrelated to like failing. My biggest fear is that my computer would stop working at some point during the exam. And the instructions for us were that then you would switch to writing by hand. And I knew if that happened to me, you've seen my notes and what my handwriting looks like. If they would just be like, this, what is this? So I had a lot of stress around electronics working during the bar exam. So I really did delete every program, file, everything off of the computer so that it would be running at peak performance when I took the test.
And that's smart, because you don't want a virus to have gotten in. You don't want all of these programs to delay processing speed, because you are going to have to put a new program onto your computer. Yes. Many law students have had to do that through your law school career with your law school exams, where they will make you, some classes or schools will make you put certain software on before you take the test. Make sure that it's running. I had a couple of times during law school where there were 2 different tests that I took that my computer froze in the middle of it. And you're desperately trying, you only have so much time. At least when I was in law school, it was much more timed versus the all day or take home tasks. And I remember that panic. And the last thing you want to do on the bar exam, if you're using a computer, is for something to shut down. You're already stressed. You're already trying to figure out the answers. Don't let it be a computer problem that trips you up in the end. Take it out, run antiviral software. Yeah. Get a new computer if you need to. Have a computer professional run diagnostics. Run it several times. Run it once a week. Do a backup system. Use backblaze.com or something. They're not supporting us. I just know it's something I use. So find these systems, use them, implement them. As soon as you can register or download the software that the companies and the bars want you to use, do it. Get it on there.
And they usually have like a simulation where it just runs the like how to click into everything. Pretty sure ours is ExamSoft. Don't quote me on that, but that's what it was. And I'd only ever used it once before in law school. So like I did all of you click and it says practice test just to make sure I knew how to click through everything and use it. And that just made me feel a little bit better going in.
And that's smart because, you can install it. That's part 1. Make sure your computer's running well. Part 2. But if you haven't even tested the software or experimented with it, done anything with it, and you show up and hope to guess it, or it should be easy enough, it's just like using Word. Well, not necessarily. So if they allow you to use it, go through it, sample it beforehand, absolutely take advantage of it. For me, I was in one of the years in 2005 when I first took the Virginia bar, or I took it once, but when I first took a bar exam, they had just started working with computers on the tests. So, they'd just come out with it a few years before in law school. So we started in law school, and then we were one of, I think, the first 3 classes that had even had that option on the bar, but I knew myself. And unlike you, now I probably would opt for the computer, but especially at that time, I was so used to handwriting everything, and I didn't want the extra worry for myself of what if the computer breaks down. I didn't want to lose 15, 20, 30 minutes trying to fool with a computer. And I was like, you know what? It's better just to write it from the beginning. So I made that decision early on, even with the computer option, because I just didn't want that stress. I could get rid of it. I could stop worrying about it and could just focus on practicing handwriting tests and getting as much as I could out in handwriting, even though I typed faster, because that was what I needed. So I think the biggest decision is, will you use it? And
that's true, because you had the option not to still.
Yeah.
That was not, I mean, just because of who I am as a person, that was not an option I considered because, and I actually did this a couple times in undergrad, had to handwrite exams, and there were lots of arrows drawn. I mean, to be fair, I actually had one professor one time that the policy was handwriting exams. And after I turned in my first one, she was like, you will go sit in the computer lab and take your exam and type on the computer. And I was like, I told you going in. It was a professor I knew pretty well. And so she was like, I know you know this material and I can see you wrote things, but I can't read that.
Yeah. And that's totally right. So even handwriting, I do very good notes and they're very readable.
Yes.
Legible. That's
there we
the
go.
right word. But even I ended up during the test of writing a different paragraph, and I was like, oh, I really wanted that as paragraph 2. So I would box it in and then draw an arrow up. Now it sufficed. It was fine. But just know that you can do that, but don't scratch a whole bunch of things. So figure out what works best for you. Practice either way. And if it's electronically based, do it as soon and as quickly and as much as possible, just so on the day of, it's as smooth as possible and it doesn't trip you up.
Yeah.
Now talk about the phone.
Okay. I'm going to own it. Okay. So I took the Maryland bar exam at that time, and at the place we were allowed to bring our backpacks into the exam room, and then we put them essentially along the back wall. So they were not at the desk where you were taking, but you would bring your stuff into the room with you. That makes sense. And you would bring your little plastic bag to the exam table of your pencils and highlighters or whatever. But what that means is that your phone could absolutely never be at the exam table, which makes sense. I think any standardized test, that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
But I was petrified. Again, just all of the things, you get the stress dreams, that my phone was somehow going to go off, because they made it very clear that if someone's phone went off, they would find which backpack it came from, and that person's exam would be disqualified.
Yeah.
So I had this radiating fear that my phone was going to go off. So, I'm turning the volume off, which I've done 1,000 times, clicking it all the way down, do not disturb. But despite having owned various versions of the iPhone for the past, decade, I don't remember the last time I turned my phone off. Okay. So I was literally Googling, how do you turn an iPhone off? Which I know makes me sound so stupid, but when do you ever turn your phone off? Right.
You don't. I mean, it installs
I'll silence
updates.
it, or I'll put it on do not disturb. It's always on do not disturb, or I'll silence it, but actually turning it off. So find out how to do that. I mean, if you have an Android, I have no idea how to turn those off either.
But
and I was just thinking
out.
about, now that I say it and it's on my wrist, Apple Watches too. I know there were people who just out of habit had theirs on, and it wasn't a big deal. They could go put it in their backpack. But what are the settings on the watch? If your phone is off, is there a possibility that watch is going to make noise?
Yeah.
So making sure you know how to actually shut down all of your electronics.
And that's a really great thought as well, because you don't want something to be going off during the exam. You don't want to be discounted, discredited, taken out, removed, whatever it is, because of a piece of electronics. Do watch the Apple Watches and Fitbits, that sort of thing, because you may not be allowed to bring them into your exam, depending on your state.
Yeah.
If you are, it may have to go in a bag. You don't want that going off down the hallway or in the room and disturbing yourself and other people. That heart-wrenching, is that my phone thought, is not a good one you want to have. Make sure your alarms are off. Some people, even if it's on silent or do not disturb mode, if your alarm is preset and you didn't turn it off, that will still go off. That will go out of everything.
Absolutely.
So make sure your alarms are either completely deleted or turned off, deactivated before you get in there, because that will also do the same.
I was crazy. silenced it. I did delete everything. And I'm a person who probably has no less than 4,000 alarms that I just set all the time. Deleted all of them, turned my phone on do not disturb, then airplane mode, and then physically shut it off because you don't need that stress, because I was having stress dreams that it was going off. And so I was like, I have to make sure this will not go off. I also had my iPad with me because I'd been using it to study instead of having my computer out. And I had to make sure I knew how to shut that all the way down. And I actually had left my watch at home. So that wasn't an issue for me.
But leave it in your car or your hotel room if you can. I don't think people should leave it at home because we rely so much on phones now. But if you don't have to bring it into the exam with you, try not to. Find a regular wristwatch if you're looking at time issues.
If you're allowed. Some states don't allow you to even have a normal watch on.
True.
So yeah, I mean, that's a thought too of just like, what are you allowed to bring into the room? If it's electronic, is it functioning how it should? And is it able to be silent? I also obsessively made sure, not that I was on anything, which is why I was only using my computer for the exam, which is why I was studying on my iPad. But before I got into the testing room, would just make sure in case that my laptop was also silent, that it wasn't going to randomly do anything. Make sure like I have an HP that it doesn't do those like random restarts, like, update everything on it. That's
make sure your updates are done before you get into that room.
Yes.
For sure. Okay, and we were going to do logistics next and then packing, but we're such in a good place to add packing right now. Because we're talking about what you should or shouldn't have in the exam when you're preparing. And we started to mention this of what should be in your bag and can you even bring a wristwatch? So let's talk about packing because you want to find out now. Don't wait till the week before. Don't wait till the day of to find out what you need to have or can't have in the exam room with you. So, for instance, these wristwatch, alarms, whatever it is, can you even have a timekeeping device? If so, what type can you bring in? Can you even have an alarm? Then we've got, simple things like, can you bring a pen, a pencil, highlighters, notepads, sticky notes? What are you allowed to bring in? So find out from your state, and it should be on all of your bar exam websites, the Virginia State Bar Exam website, all of the other states. Every state will have one. There will be a list of things you can and cannot have in that room. Find it out, and then decide once you know what it is, do I want to bring it? Should I bring it? For Maryland, I was allowed with the attorney entrance exam because I was already an attorney. I was allowed full access to all material. I could bring in, I had code books. I mean, I had 5 different huge code books, and they said it's open code, right? So I could bring in the books. But in the end, I really shouldn't have, because I have a little bitty desk and I'm trying to sort through 5 different huge code books.
Not worth it.
And I was like, you know what? That really wasn't worth it. I passed. But a lot of it was because I was like, well, screw it. I can't use these books. And I just left them on the floor until I got to one question where I was like, I have no idea what that is. And I used a book. But other than that, it was just in the way. So you don't want to overpack. Now, were you allowed to bring any notebook, notepad, anything else with you?
No. So they were very strict on what we were allowed to bring. Like I said, in the exam room, because it was this huge exam room, like you could have stuff in a bag, like a purse, a backpack, but that was not at your like exam table. So at the exam table, you were allowed to have pencils for sure. I think pens and highlighters. Don't quote me on the pens. I know for sure the highlighters and the pencils. But I think it was a pen too, but I'm not positive. And that you could have like tissues, I think. And you could have a bottle of water, but it had to be on the floor while you were taking the exam.
And with the top, with a screw top. It couldn't be
with a screw top.
A cup you brought from home or a tumbler or anything.
So it could be a tumbler that had a lid, like the Stanley type cups, as long as it like had a top. They were not super strict on enforcing it being a screw top. And then what I was surprised about, this is like one of the weird things of earplugs. You are not allowed to bring your own earplugs. So I have like a reusable pair that's like obviously not sponsored, but I do really like them, like the loop earplugs that are really popular. I have a pair I loved. I intended to bring them with me to the exam until I checked, and they were like, they supplied earplugs there, which it was fine. But I was like, why can't I bring mine? But the other thing is the ticket. So even though we are now have progressed to using our computers for everything.
And our phones of, even your boarding pass and the airplanes you can do.
Not for the exam to get in, which you had to have every day of like, you're supposed to put it in your, because we also had to bring everything in like it was the TSA, like in a clear bag. Like
right, you're going to a baseball game, yeah.
Right. And so you have to have this printed out ticket. And like, luckily I had a printer at home, but like a lot of law students don't because you're on campus all the time. And like, I never turned in a printed assignment. Why would I have to do that? So I made sure to print out like a gazillion copies, which was probably not necessary, but
it made you feel better.
It did make me feel better. And I did. And so I did this kind of in the weeks leading up to just making sure I printed it out because I didn't want it to be the night before I left for the exam, go to print it and my printer's out of ink or something like that. So like, a month before I'm like, I'm just going to print it out now and have like 4 or 5 copies.
Yeah. Put one in your glove box, put one in your backpack,
everywhere.
Carry whatever makes you feel better. It's like the people who show up to the airport 3 hours early. It makes them feel better. I'm not going to complain to anybody about that. So I agree. Make sure you've got that already as soon as possible so you can put your mind at ease on that. As far as what you can have at your desk, be careful. This isn't studying. So for me studying, I love highlighters. I love them. I will highlight the crap out of books, out of my own notes. And it's something good for me because I use different colors to mean different things. And a lot of people do for like brief writing. But at the exam, you're not doing that. So I wouldn't bring 50 highlighters. I wouldn't even bring 5. I'd bring 1 or 2 if you're allowed one because I like highlighters where I can at least, highlight a specific fact in a question. If they allow you to do that, find out, do they allow you to highlight anything on the exam at all? Or would you only highlight your notes? Can you have notes that are separate than your actual examination?
Like scratch paper type of situation,
right. Can you have scratch paper? If you can you bring it on your own? Or like the earplugs, do you have to get it from them? Find that out. For me, I have a tendency to overdo it. I have a tendency to make too many notes before I start answering, and I didn't have time to waste. I did not have time to make those lists. I could make some bullet points, and that's what I needed to do. I could highlight 1 or 2 things, but I didn't have time to do my other. Again, this is not studying. This is an exam taking portion. So make sure what you have is as limited as possible, but is still enough for what helps you the most and is allowed or not allowed. Don't get in there and you have 5 highlighters and the people are like, yeah, you can't use that. You've got to take it out. And this is another thing of it is whatever you can have, practice using it.
That is what I was just about to say, because I really am not like a color coded highlighting person. I've like tried it and it's not particularly helpful for me.
Sure.
And so I don't use them when I'm taking exams. I didn't for the LSAT. Any standardized exam, I've never used it, but because it was allowed, I brought like 2. Why? I don't know, but I was like, maybe
just in case.
Just in case. So for me, this is again one of those like silly things of like everything that was permitted for us to have at our tables, I put in my bag. I put it in my bag because I would rather have it and have things to share. Because for us, they would let you into the exam room so you could put your backpack down, get it to your table. I think it was 30 minutes before the time you're supposed to be in your seat. I did not get there 30 minutes early. I usually did 15 because 30 minutes is too long for me to sit there and get stressed.
Yeah.
But there were one time this poor girl, you could see the panic in her face. I mean, we were not in a rush. People were there early, kind of getting all set up. And she realized she had like left her bag of all of her stuff somewhere. And she's like, I don't have a pencil. I don't have a pen. And I had like a case of pens. I mean, not really, but there were so many. I was like, here. And everyone around was like, here, you can have them. Like those kind of things. It's just nice to know that it's never going to be an issue for you.
Absolutely. And when you're doing practice tests, we highly encourage you to do practice tests. And when you do, use the things that you think you're going to bring or use the things you can only bring. Make sure you're not using more, or less. Again, I wouldn't use 5 highlighters. I'd bring 1 or 2 and practice with the 1 or 2. Whatever it is, make sure you practice ahead of time to make sure that is as much or as little as you need and you're prepared and used to what's on your desk and in front of you. And even the water bottle, put it beside your chair. Make sure you're not, bumping it off or whatever it is, but practice a couple of times with a real life practice test before you go. Now, the other thing is clothing. All right. And I love this topic because I took the Virginia bar and
you have the lot. Anybody who if you know, you know.
Yes. For those of you who don't know, Virginia still requires court attire. You have to take the exam in court attire. And what the website ends up saying, and we double checked it again, is like, yeah, no, it's still here, is a suit jacket. Okay, you have to have a suit jacket, a collared shirt, nice dress pants or a skirt. So they're very specific about here's what you have to wear. And they are not joking.
No.
They are not. So here's my horror story. Get this prepared. So I'll tell you, get it prepared, know beforehand. Don't just
this scares me so much. And I was not in a state where you had to wear, like, this story is imprinted in my brain. And sorry if you hear clippy clappies. I have my dogs are running around. Olive, so I hope it's not too distracting.
No, our dogs, it's been a while since we've taped, but our dogs are always included in this. So it's good to hear Olive. Yes. Too bad we can't bring puppies to the bar because I would.
I think he would become a medical alert dog. He'd be like, Mom, you are so stressed. Something is deeply wrong.
The head goes on your lap. Yeah, exactly. So in Virginia, I ended up being able to wear tennis shoes, and thank goodness. But I hate suits. And if I'm wearing a suit, I don't mind wearing it when I'm speaking in the courtroom, but I don't like to be sitting in my normal, house or my normal workplace wearing a suit. I just hate it. Men, I don't think it's as big a deal with. Most women don't mind as much, but I hate them. So I had to practice wearing a suit in my practice exam so that by the time I got to the actual bar, I was comfortable enough sitting. I tried out a couple of different suits. I found the suit that was most comfortable, that was not too tight on me, was not, I had to make sure I was wearing the suit that felt the best and most comfortable with my tennis shoes. And I wore socks and tennis shoes, and I didn't care because that made me feel better. I had a friend, so here's the horror story. I had a friend from my law school class who didn't check his suit before he got there. He sent it to the dry cleaner. He picked up his dry cleaning on the day before. He threw it in his car. It takes it to the exam. The day of, he pulls it out and finds out that the dry cleaner only gave him his suit jacket. He hadn't picked up his suit pants. He didn't have an extra pair anywhere. He had only brought that one suit and what he thought was a full suit, and it wasn't. So bless his heart, he shows up to the exam with a full suit jacket, a nice shirt, and his shorts because that was the only other thing he had. And they turned him away. All of that time, all of that studying, all of that money he had put in, and because he didn't check his dry cleaning, he couldn't go in. He didn't fail it. He just couldn't even take it.
Which is just...
Yeah. So don't be that guy. And he didn't, I mean, I felt so, to this day, like you're saying, my stomach drops in even thinking of it, because how horrible would that be? Don't let it happen to you. Bring a couple of suits. Make sure when you pick up your dry cleaning that you have the suit jacket and the skirt or the pants. Make sure you have everything before you get in your car and go to the exam, whether it's driving the day of or going to a hotel and walking over, whatever it is, check your clothing. Find out what you have to have, wear layers, pack layers.
That's what my thing is because I didn't have to have any sort of court attire. But I get so cold very easily. Yeah. Like my hands and feet will be frozen. And so even though it's July when you're taking the exam, it was hot outside. Yeah. When I was trying to figure out what I was going to wear. And this seems like such a small detail, but I'm like, I'm already stressed. I need to be comfortable in what I'm wearing. So I was concerned, but sometimes when you get that many people in a conference room, it gets really, really hot. And so I was so concerned about the temperature of the room and what it was going to be, because I was like, if all I can think about is how cold I am, I'm not going to be focused. Or if I'm so hot, I'm also not going to focus. So this is what I ended up doing. And I was like debating this, like in my mind, this was a debate because it was so warm outside. I was like, should I wear shorts? Because it is so warm. But no, I went with like a thin legging and like a t-shirt with a sweater or sweatshirt over the top, and like comfortable socks, shoes, all of that. So that, and I picked that way beforehand. I was like, this is what I'm going to wear, and made that decision, and it was ready to go.
Exactly. And I think that's the best thing. And to practice again,
yeah,
with what you can have in there, with what you can wear in there, with how you feel the most comfortable. If you're in sweatpants and you don't think you're going to concentrate well enough because you're in sweatpants, you're going to be a little bit more lazy. Don't wear sweatpants. Yep. Whatever it takes, make sure you know, make sure you try it out. So on the day of, you feel the most confident and comfortable that you possibly can for having success on your own exam.
All right. And if you're like, I'm a person who like generally wears makeup every day.
Wear makeup.
I get up in the morning and I'm like, it's part of what I normally do in the morning. So even though it might seem silly to some people, I got up and did my makeup, did my hair, because
absolutely
that's what I do. And I mean, do I think that's what made the difference? No, but it was like, the reality is you're going to be in a room of like hundreds of people. And if I had like just not done anything with my hair or my makeup, I feel like that would have like been playing in the back of my mind of like, I don't feel like myself in this moment. So I do think there's something to that.
Whatever makes you feel the best about yourself. That's the way to go. Is I feel ready for court when I do my hair and makeup.
Exactly.
And if this is like going to court, well, I'm going to dress and look like I go to court. So yeah, I think that's really important. Let's talk one more about packing, and this is longer than we thought it was. So let's the last item of packing, and then we're going to talk a little bit about logistics. But for packing, Chelsea and I have talked about this a lot because we both take different medications, and it is no secret from any of you that Chelsea has ADHD.
No.
And Chelsea needs her ADHD meds to think the most clearly, write the most clearly. And last summer, there was a shortage.
That was actually so concerning because like through my finals week, like in May, when I was finishing law school, there was a complete shortage, and it was like sporadic throughout the summer of whether or not you could get it at the pharmacy. And so I was like, well, the bar is coming up and I'm not taking it without my medication. So that was something that like a month plus beforehand, I was making sure that I had my prescriptions filled, and that even if there was supposed to be a fill in the meantime, that I was going to hang on to enough med to take it on the day of the bar exam. And then hopefully, the shortage wouldn't be, but that's something I would look into pretty far beforehand.
Yeah.
And do whatever you need to do. And if your medication is the type of medication that you would need to have in the room at the table, I just moved my schedule around it, and when I was taking it, that I didn't need to bring anything with me to the table. But like if you are someone who has medication, you need to bring with you to the table. In Maryland, I think there was a form you needed to submit to do that. And then it was allowed to
find out now. That's the point.
Yeah. Because you don't want to be like, oh no, I'm supposed to take my medicine at noon and I'm not going to be out of here until 2. What am I supposed to do?
Exactly. So pre-plan. Make sure you have enough medication to bring with you. Make sure it's in your bag to bring with you. Make sure you know whether you can or should take it during the exam. Practice moving the times around. But I even remember last year when we were working on this that you purposely didn't take your meds a couple of times or even a week in July because you weren't sure you would have enough for the week of.
Yes, that's what, like I was supposed to fill it in between, but because the shortage had been, so my like refill at the very, very beginning of, or I guess it was the middle of June, I took a couple of the pills for my medication and saved them and didn't take them other days that I would normally take them because I was making sure I was going to have them on bar exam day.
Yeah. So, and that was smart. And similarly, and this goes into some logistics, is if you know you're going to need medication or the refill date is the week of the bar, well, you should find that out and check to see is there the right pharmacy located near the bar exam where you could go and get it filled. Look at what's there. Decide now, are you going to go and get a hotel? Are you going to stay over in the city? Are you going to try to drive in? Figure it out now. And especially so again, Virginia is such a wonky state. And I don't know California, Louisiana, that sort of thing. But for Virginia, there was only one location, and it's Roanoke. That is what it is. So everybody, middle of nowhere, takes the same test in the same location without much there. So there was one main hotel. There is one main hotel in Roanoke. And if you didn't book it in time, you were out of luck. So what was next? Well, there was this kind of ratty motel down the road, and then that filled up. And then there's some 30 minutes, an hour away. So you're looking at the later you wait to make an arrangement to be in Roanoke, and most people aren't in Roanoke in Virginia, let me tell you. It's a lot of Northern Virginia, a lot of Charlottesville, Southeastern Virginia, but not many people in the Roanoke area, and they all converge on the same time. So if you didn't get your hotel reservations in time, you're out of luck. And you need to know, and there's not much there. There was, maybe a restaurant or two, but then again, everybody's going to the same restaurant because that's all that's there.
Yeah.
So find out now.
Yeah, I was going to say, even I was in Baltimore taking it. So there's plenty in Baltimore, but those are the kind of things I was like, I don't want to need to think about that. I don't want to be in this very, very stressful test all day and be like, well, I'm hungry, and then make that decision at that point. So there was a Jimmy John's close to the test center, and I was like, okay, I placed my order for pickup before I even went into the bar exam of I am going to pick this up at the end of the day, or the lunch or end of the day. And I had identified that and a couple other, a 7-Eleven. If I needed something, I packed everything in the kitchen sink. Yeah. But in my mind, I was like, let me identify where these things are. So it's not that last minute, oh my God, I don't have something. Right. Where can I get it?
Right. So you were smart. We looked beforehand as to whether you would even stay in Baltimore because you were in DC. It wasn't that far of a drive.
No.
But you chose to still stay next to the bar exam. You were within blocks. And
maybe even less than a block. It was so close, and that was fantastic because there's nothing more stressful, in my opinion, than trying to park in a DC, Baltimore type environment. Trying to drive and park in that type of situation is my worst nightmare normally, let alone with the stress of the bar exam. So I had to come to the end of a street and walk across one crosswalk, and I was at the conference center.
And that gave you a lot of peace of mind.
Tons of peace of mind, yes.
So use Chelsea's example is decide now, a month, 2 months, 3 months before the bar, where you're going to stay. If you're going to stay in town, a lot of people, it just isn't possible. But find out now. I hate traffic, especially the whole Beltway area in Northern Virginia, DC, this whole area. Mm-hmm. I would have also stayed over because I can't imagine trying to, on a regular work day in the middle of the week, get through traffic around DC and Baltimore to get into this thing. I wouldn't have been able to do it. So even if you're 30 minutes away, an hour away, decide what's worth it to you. Do you want to drive in? Do you want to stay there? Where are you going to stay? Is it safe? Is it close enough to other restaurants or a pharmacy or anything else? And find people to bunk with. Some people, they don't want anyone to stay with them because it's too much to have another person in your room. A lot of people get distracted by friends in their room. They want to go out, to a bar the night before the night of the bar examination. Find out your friends who are going to be respectful. So if you need to share a cost, if you need to share a room, you can, but pick the right friends.
Yeah.
Honestly, because the last thing you want to do is mess up your own study time, your own rest and relax time with worrying about what somebody else is going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's some logistics. The hotel reservations, driving, parking, find that out beforehand so you know whether you're staying over somewhere or driving in, where to park, when to park, how much it's going to cost to park. Make sure you know that as much as possible beforehand. And I think, prescriptions, meals and snacks, we're going to talk about a little bit more in the next one, where we are going to discuss, now that we're preparing as much as possible, a month or 2 months ahead of the exam, month or 2 months ahead of the exam. Next, we're going to talk about the week of and during the exam. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be our next one. But in the meantime, don't forget, while preparing your electronics, Don't forget the packing of your clothes, your tickets, your items in the exam that you can bring with you, as well as the logistics and planning beforehand. So good luck, everybody. We think that this will help you, hopefully give you a little bit of relief, a sigh of relief, a feeling of relief and peace. Where as stressful as this is, there are things that you can do and ways you can prepare to make it just a little less stressful.
Yeah, and if you have any questions or comments of things you did the month before the bar exam, I'd love to hear what other people's thoughts are.
Absolutely.
So drop us a comment or question. We'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. Like and subscribe so you can follow the channel and have access to our free resources for the Law Unscripted. Check out our website. Don't forget that, thelawunscripted.com. And yes, drop comments. Tell us what did or didn't work for you. Ask us questions. We're happy to respond. And what we will do then is take up our next topic. But in the meantime, again, good luck. We support you. We're excited for you. This is a huge step in your legal career. We are confident that you can do it, and we're here to help along the way because I'm Virginia Tarani.
And I'm Chelsea Rogers.
And we will catch you next time on The Law Unscripted.
Bye.